Year 4500 U. Hercynia. Union, after millennia of space travel, finally discovered that humanity is not alone, and within decades, ensured they are. The Gregorians are what humanity called them, hexapedal, carbon-based, hard-shelled arthropods that are a little closer to crustaceans than insects. Their body can morph and mold based on what their task required them for. Most are barely taller than a human, but much longer and wider, some are a little more varied. But what truly makes a Gregorian stand out is their ability to use witness, a sort of mental connection that let them share emotion, memory, and experience with just thought. Even memory and feeling of those long dead can be channeled through an Gregorian morph called overmind. To them, the very present and the ancestral past memories they have almost felt like the same thing, like it is happening right now. But, enough about the wonder of the Gregorians, it's time to talk about their death. What sparked the initial conflict is unknown, a first contact gone wrong, or simply a terrible set of coincidences. Whatever it was, it caused what will soon be named simply as the Hercynia crisis, a war. For all the military technologies the Union has developed for the past few millennia, they were designed to deal with human opponents that preferred open terrain. Against the thick jungle of Hercynia and the Gregorians' determination to not lose their only home, they were the wrong tool against the wrong conflict. Wheeled and tracked vehicles cannot travel through the thick woods quickly. Bombing campaign isn't exactly effective against an entire species that lived underground beneath mountains. Hive infiltration with infantry alone without vehicle support was highly costly, and communication jamming doesn't work against a race that could communicate with their mind. And these weren't mindless alien bugs often depicted in fiction. They were armed with weapons like guns and missiles, and intentionally avoided direct conflict in open terrain with Union force, where Union's firepower can be utilized effectively, while engaging with swarm tactics when advantages were on their side, and the jungles were around them. Their larger brethrens, the warrior morphs, larger than a draft horse and possibly just as fast, could even carry autocannons as if they were simple firearms, applying massive firepower on locations where even Union cannot bring their vehicles in. But, Union, after all, are humanity. If our hand cannot break their hide, we make spears and arrows to pierce it. If our prey runs faster than we are, we walk until it tires out and perishes. And if all of military doctrine and tactics developed over the entirety of human history didn't work, we simply develop new one that does, and uses it to kill. Based on existing hard suit technologies that have matured over millennia of space travel, General Massive Systems developed and manufactured the first mechanized chassis in the world. Taller and larger than a warrior morph, ugly as sin with a focus on brute force and simplicity, and mass-produced as many times as the Union wanted, the Gangese Mark I landed on Hercynia and burned it with its flame. Around this time of the war, SECOM had enough of the conflict and wanted it to end as quickly as possible, no matter the brutality and cruelty needed to do so. The war turned into a massacre, and the Union set its focus on not just killing the Gregorians, but their world too. It's not a simple act of just nuking all of the Gregorians' hives. No, in centuries or even decades, the world will heal, and the survivors will reform a semblance of civilization. That will not do. And so, the SECOM unleashed total biome kill devices onto the planet. It remains unknown as to what the TBK devices really are. The Gangese Mark I were simply a part of the TBK doctrine, not its entirety, but what it did was obvious and clear. Hercynia has been killed. SECOM has managed to replicate the thousands-year crisis that befell upon the old humanity, one that almost killed them, and inflicted it upon another sapient race, committing a worse mistake even the old humanity couldn't do. But, it didn't bring the victory SECOM wanted. Its citizens were in uproar over the crisis, and rebellion formed. The Hercynia crisis was simply the breaking point that finally broke the dam. The frustration and tiredness that formed after countless issues SECOM caused and didn't bother to address, like piston 1, compounded upon each other. Planet after planet rebelled, and SECOM tried to silence them out by unleashing TBK devices on them. That only made people realize if they don't overthrow SECOM, humanity might die again. A revolution occurred, decades of brutal fighting throughout the core worlds followed, and SECOM was eventually replaced by ThirdCom. But, by now, Hercynia was no longer in the focus of anything. Although the Hercynia crisis sparked the revolution and formation of ThirdCom, it was followed by more massacres and acts of cruelty on both core and diasporan worlds, along with fervorous zeitgeist to reform the Union. On Cradle, Hercynia crisis was quickly mythologized, the specifics reduced to just another slogan catalyzing latent anger. And in the fighting, much of the institutional knowledge was lost, SECOM bureaucrats destroyed most of existing records and charts, and any remaining records were unintentionally destroyed when ThirdCom abolished SECOM's Imperial Department, the Union Colonial Mission. Ultimately, Hercynia was simply one signal lost in the noise. It wasn't inaccessibility that caused Hercynia to be forgotten, but it was the sheer overwhelming amount of data and knowledge broadcasted across the OmniNet that did. Decades passed, and the revolution claimed millions of lives. Centuries passed, and time claimed the history of Hercynia. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.